Good morning, everyone. Good morning to this Gateway Week. And all we want to say is we're bringing light to this page, we're bringing light to the world, and it's better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. And so we need you all to shine your light to make this world a better place. And that's why we're bringing you Tina Hines today. She's going to show us how to embrace our gifts and so we can all shine our light in the world. And by shining our light, we activate everyone around us and they shine their light and the darkness runs away. So, Teresa, why don't you introduce our special guest, Tina, today?
Oh, you guys, I am so excited to have Tina here. This woman is so good at storytelling, so good at sharing the parts of her life that was so inspiring to me. I met her through Jessica Dugas on the Breakthrough show. Her breakthrough was amazing and inspiring, and I know you're going to find it just inspiring too. Tina C. Hines is an international intuitive transformational coach, clairvoyant, medium, and healer, and has devoted her life's work to transforming, guiding emotionally wounded women on a journey, self-love, self-care, and self-worth. And during her 31 career in the corporate America, Tina began to cultivate her expertise in coaching. She has managed the executive offices at the Robert Wood Johnson Corporation Foundation and the Black Enterprise Magazine and Johnson & Johnson. Through guided meditations and messages of truth, forgiveness, and love, Tina has shown numerous women around the globe simplistic strategies to transform their self-defeating behaviors to ones of victory. Using a bit of tough love coupled with deep compassion, Tina nudges women to end the committed relationships they have with their emotional pain and start building new relationships with happiness. Isn't that beautiful? She's been on Good Morning America, Positive Energy TV, and so many other places. It's amazing. She's the author of A Self-Love After the Storm, 31 Affirmations to Heal Emotional Wounds, and co-authored Organized Obstacles, a collection of weight loss stories from those who have laughed in impossible's face in fear and fearlessness. Death stories that inspire. So do you see what I mean so far? I am amazed by her. So welcome to our show, Tina.
Welcome, welcome, and thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm excited to join you ladies this morning to have this phenomenal discussion about embracing your gift.
Whew, I love that. I love that. Yeah, embracing our gift is a journey, isn't it? So tell
Yes.
me how your journey to embrace this started, or tell
Well,
us.
it wasn't easy, let me say. It wasn't a walk in the park, that's for sure. Uh, it was probably a drag through the park as we go through those awakenings. It's like people think it looks all pretty and nice, and all of a sudden it's like, what happened here? My journey actually started out because of suffering from clinical depression. And with the clinical depression, at the same time, I was going through my spiritual awakening, and I was unfamiliar with both. I'd never
Whew.
experienced clinical depression, and I never knew what an awakening was. So it required me to do a little bit of work. So the journey began there with my healing and allowing myself to get quiet and step away from it all. Because when you try to work on too many things at one time, something is going to fall short, and you need to allow yourself to focus on what's going to get you healed, mind, body, and spirit. And so going through my own personal journey allowed me to do that, allowed me to really step away from the full-time corporate job and just go to a space of peace. My space of peace is Anguilla, British West Indies, and allow clarity to come. And then through that clarity, I started working with a therapist, and then I discovered meditation through Deepak Chopra, the 21-day meditation.
Yes.
And then, just getting quiet and understanding and embracing this gift of knowing, of connecting with our loved ones who've transitioned, and just being present.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So, what is it that helped you most to be able to embrace these things,
I
these
think
beautiful
I
gifts?
I think what helped me most was talking to my family members. There's a couple of things that happened. So as I was going through this awakening, I started reaching out to some of my aunts and saying to them, I'm seeing my grandmother and my great grandmother, and they're hanging around me a lot, and no one would tell me anything. They kept passing me on to my mom's the oldest of 10, and they kept passing me on to a sister, to a sister, and sister. And then finally, one of them said, "Hey, go talk to your cousin." And my cousin is actually my grandmother's niece, and at the time she was in her 80s. She was in her 80s at the time, and she's still alive. And I reached out to her and I said, "Hey, I'm seeing my grandmother and your mother, and I think I'm going crazy. I think I might have to be put in the hospital because I'm going crazy." And
So
so
because
when
your grandmother and your mother had passed by this time, right?
my mom is still alive.
Oh, your mom's still alive, but
My mom's still alive. So my grandmother had transitioned. My all of the ones who I was seeing had transitioned. But my grandmother's niece was the one who was still alive, who was familiar with the gift.
okay.
And so when I reached out to her and I said to her, I says, I'm seeing my grandmother's, and I'm seeing one lady, I don't know who she is. And she told me, she asked me to describe her, which I did. And she says, "Oh, that's your great great grandma Jenny. You're just like her, and I've been waiting for you." And I'm
Oh my
like,
gosh, what
"Oh,
did
you
that
couldn't
feel?
tell me? You've been waiting for me?" Like, I'm like, "Okay, wait a minute, what's going on here?" And so she started sharing with me. And then one of my aunts has my grandmother's journals, and my grandmother would talk about certain things that she had experienced through dreams. And when I'm reading the journal, I'm calling family. Was like, "Do you remember all of this happening?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "I remember it." And I started describing it. And I was probably like 2 or 3 years old, but I started describing certain instances that were inside this amazing piece of history that we had access to. And I was actually the first person to read my grandmother's journals. So it was definitely a beautiful experience. And it was helpful to me as I was navigating my way through this world of having this gift. So
Oh my gosh,
Amazing.
I love that.
How did you handle that? Like, because you said that, I know you told us in the pre-show meeting that this just happened. Like, you hadn't been experiencing the
mhm.
visits your whole life. So how did you handle that all of a sudden seeing these women around you and being able to kind of handle that with grace? I would have freaked out at first seeing all these people, you know?
And you know what, Bex? That's the most amazing part about it. It didn't freak me out. It
Mhm.
was more, I was searching for clarity of it. Like, what does it mean? I wasn't like, "Oh my God, I'm seeing dead people and what's going on." I didn't have that type of feeling when I started recognizing it. And I think the biggest question I would always ask myself is, why me? For the longest time, like, why me? And versus, why not me? And I never feared when they started making their presence known, because I knew that there was a message. But at the same time, you have to remember, I was trying to balance the clinical depression side of things at the same time of having this awakening side. So in working with my therapist, one of the things that I kept saying to him, and we joked about this, I'm like, "I need to tell you some things, but you gotta promise me you're not going to put me in a hospital." And I went along with this for a couple of sessions, and then finally I said, "Okay, I give." And I says, "I'm seeing dead people, and I know that's not supposed to happen." And he said to me, "Oh my God, that's the most beautiful thing." And then I was like, okay, because then there was that level of comfort to discuss it and, discuss what I was experiencing. But I still didn't talk about it much outside of our therapeutic room. I had not made those connections yet with those people who understood it, who wouldn't be looking at me like, what's going on with Tina? Because at some point, some of my friends had said, you're not quite right. There's something going on. And then, I started, I had connected with someone at an event, and I learned that she did Reiki. And then her Reiki guidance and her experience also proved beneficial to me and helpful to me as I started embracing it and loving it and loving this experience and recognizing that I'm not alone. And I think that's the thing. So many of us, we don't talk about it enough, and we feel that we are alone. And so we internalize all of it versus being able to share, just like we share a recipe with somebody, just to be willing to share.
So,
I
and
love
correct me
that.
if I'm wrong, but what I'm getting is that your depression, your darkness, was the gift that was the catalyst that silenced you to open up to these gifts.
Most definitely. And
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
and just think of us as women, there's a lot of, we're busy.
Mhm.
We're moms. we're doing everything on Facebook. We don't give ourselves the time to sit in stillness and get quiet. So that's why now it's an important entity of my everyday life.
That is beautiful. I mean, to see that direct connection with how the depression played into you being able to sit and just be silent and open up to the experience and really activate your gifts. So many times we're trying just to move through the depression, trying to get through it, not trying to really have to deal with it, right? We just want to
Right.
get through it. But to know that that can actually help activate your gifts by allowing it and just finding a way to be silent in it, that's really powerful.
And I think that had I not gone through depression, I don't know at what point I would have gotten quiet. Because as I've shared, I'm 51, so I didn't experience my awakening until I was 40, where most people had known since they were of a young age, and I didn't know anything. But now, as an adult, I'm going back and reflecting on certain moments of experiences that I've had, and I'm like, oh my God, I've been here before, and I remember it. But life was keeping me busy and didn't allow me to get that quiet time. But as you start elevating in your gift, you'll recognize what's more important to you, versus the things that are, you're going to be willing and open to pushing it to the side. You're going to find that you're going to make it a priority.
And one of those
Yeah.
ways is, like you were saying, you just go into stillness every day. You don't necessarily have to be meditating. Just be still and be quiet and listen, right?
Yes, definitely. And so on this journey of, and there's not just one awakening, there are multiples. And so on this journey, I've always recognized when I'm at the peak or valley of an awakening. And actually, as I go into August, I'm starting to observe certain things that are repetitive from last August and the August before. So this is like, I'm very heightened of there's shifts that are taking place within the next 30 days. And I'm like going back to last year, and all of a sudden I'm saying, wait a minute, this is all looking familiar to me. So it's being able to honor the space that you're in. Number one is always important. And the biggest lesson that my therapist had taught me was flowing through it. Allowing yourself to really flow through the process, flow through the journey, instead of fighting it, instead of trying to run away from it. Just allowing everything to just be. You don't have to find the answer to every single question at this moment, because it's almost like we're putting together pieces of a puzzle. The outside of that puzzle is very easy. That, the jigsaw puzzles that we played with when we were younger. Outside is very easy. But as we start growing into our gift, then all of those little pieces that seem like they don't fit, they start to make sense to you, and you know where to place them. So I always visualize this puzzle in my head whenever I'm talking to other people or sharing with them. I says, you've got the outside covered. Now you're filling in the interior, and it's going to take time. Some things will make sense at the moment, some things won't. But be patient, gentle, and kind with yourself, and you'll see what will transpire.
I love that. So you make these amazing retreats for women. Tell me
Mm.
about, I've heard about it, and if I ever go anywhere, I am definitely calling on you. Tell me about these beautiful retreats and the healing that happens here.
The retreats, like I like to call them my babies. And as I had shared previously, that was a part of my own personal journey of healing. And so when I started building the business plan for working with women, I made a decision that I wanted to allow them to escape and escape to outside of the United States and go to another country. So 7 years ago, I started doing, it started out as remember me, who I am as a woman outside of all the hats that I wear. And then live, love, and laugh, and then followed by just a general healing. So during the retreats, we've been to several amazing Caribbean destinations like Anguilla, Turks and Caicos, and then more recently, for the past few years, we've gone to Indonesia. And each location it gives you something different. Anguilla gives you the peace and tranquility. Like being by the ocean allows you to hear your loved ones and feel the energy of your loved ones being present. And so the ladies allow themselves to be in a meditative state. They allow themselves to journal write. They allow themselves to reflect on pieces of their lives that no longer bring them joy and the transformation that they want to experience. When we went to Indonesia, it allowed them to focus on their spirituality, whatever their spirituality is of choice. And we went into some of the holy water temples and allowed ourselves to just be submerged and released in, that spirit, that how do I describe it? That sense of spirituality that is so peaceful that you can't help but be present in that moment. And I can honestly say for the past 7 years, there has about 90% of the women have come home with a new outlook on life and transformations that they want to make and how they're doing things.
That feeling that you're talking about, that's connection. That's
Mm-hmm.
real, true, pure connection without
Yeah.
all the noise. That's what we're all trying to find, right?
Yes, it is.
That's
And a
awesome.
sisterhood is formed.
Yes.
A sisterhood is formed because the women, which is the best part, they don't know one another. They don't know one another until they make the first connection online, and then they may all gather in the airport and take the trip together. And so there's a different type of bond. One of my partners in crime, as I like to call her, we call it our chosen sisters. And they're not your blood sisters, but your chosen sisters, and being able to connect with them and recognize that, here we go again, I'm not on this journey alone. I have someone who has experienced some of the exact same things I have, and I can candidly share it without having that extra energy to explain it. Because sometimes when you're explaining, it's daunting.
Yes.
But when you're sharing, it's like, oh, there's this connection between us. And that sisterhood has happened every single time during the retreats as well.
That's amazing.
Or like finding your tribe, like we
Yes.
find it here,
Yes.
and we found each other here. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's pretty cool. You say journaling. You were talking about journaling. You find that that's a really important component of embracing your gifts too.
Yes.
Give us a little talk about that. And how
So
you've done
with the journal writing, I like to say for when the women are working on their healing, it's releasing the pain through your pen. And with the journal writing, it allows you to not just share the not so yummy stuff that's going on in your life, but the good things that happen as well. Because you want those moments of reflection to see what you've come through and out of, and also how you've managed to survive it all and all the great experiences that you have. So often, I give them, write an affirmation of how you're feeling right now. Or if you were to, what does inner peace look and feel like to you? So giving them little prompts to help them prepare for what they're going to write. Because many times they'll say, well, I don't know what to write. And I'm like, well, write that down. I don't know what to write. So they can allow themselves. So as we're embracing this journey, just like finding my grandmother's journals, it's about having those journals. And so as I had shared with you before, when I had went to Indonesia the first year, the experience that I had by the waterfall was a dream that I had had, and I had written the dream 2 years prior. And so when you're able to sit down and just write what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, you never know when it's going to come full circle. And again, it puts together those pieces of the puzzle that may be hard to identify where they go. So journal writing, if anyone has ever worked with me, they'll know I always say, you got to write in your journal. I don't care if you write one word in your journal, but writing in your journal is going to be that breakthrough that you've been searching for.
I love that. I've always learned that writing in journals eventually leads you to the material, your information that you could share with others as you look back at it. But as you're talking about your grandmother's journal, and I have a book from my grandmother that's an autograph book, not a journal, just little things that people she worked with or went to school with would write, hey, stay cool forever, the silly things that they write. These things are like time capsules. So imagine in our age of knowledge and wisdom and love coming in, what our journals are going to look like for generations down the line. These are like time capsules for them too. I think it's so exciting.
It is. It's funny because I keep a number. I have them everywhere. And with my grandmother's journals, one of the things that I did was I got one of those nice, pretty boxes, and I put a journal in there for our time. So I got a blank journal. So when the box moves around the grandchildren now, everyone can add to the journal of what they got out of that experience.
Oh my gosh.
And I've encouraged. So again, I'm the firstborn grandchild, so I was the first person to read them. So I told my aunts and uncles, look, when you guys get the journal, write something in there, put a present day picture of yourself inside the journal. So when you're passing it through to your children and our grandchildren, that they get an opportunity to get to know a little bit more of us. We don't do those family trees like we used to, or the ancestry. So you get a little bit more insight of where a person's mind was in that specific time frame. I mean, my grandmother's journals were from the 70s. So it's great to have that information. And like you were saying, Teresa, one of my journals, like I kept writing in one of my journals because I would never finish it. I hope next year is going to be different. I kept writing that at the end of every year. I hope that next year is going to be different. And I kept reflecting back. And by the third time, I said, okay, I need to shift what I'm saying. And I said, next year is going to be different.
Yes.
And once I shift my energy of how I was writing it and how I was sending it out to the universe, the next year and those thereafter were different. And boy, were some of them really different. But it allows you to reflect on the way you were speaking about certain things in your life, the way you were speaking to yourself, and what you were putting out into the atmosphere.
Some of the people are asking if you have a YouTube channel, but you do,
Yes.
but you also have a really great page, a web page. So
I do have a YouTube channel. I don't update it as often as most people do. I'm probably going to start doing that. But on my Facebook page, Tina C. Hines, Life Transformation Specialist, I do Facebook Lives ever so often on that. And even if I share it from my personal page, you'll get insight of who my spirit guide is, Grandma Jenny, because she shows up in my Facebook Lives all the time.
Yes, I've seen that.
I'm almost certain she's showing up there today, but because everybody's saying your aura is glowing, just glowing. So I think she may be in behind you there too. So.
Oh my God, I love this.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So what do you advise women to do if they can't go on your retreat? What would you tell them to do? Because not everybody can, unfortunately, can't go on your retreat.
Yeah, I got that covered. I got that covered. So if you're unable to go on one of my retreats, I always encourage you to create your own retreat in your own space and bring into your space the things that bring you joy. So if it's flowers, if it's crystals, if it's candles, and your journal, and create your own retreat. Allow yourself to tap out for a day or two. I always encourage people to go to one hotel, one town over. and just say, I'm stepping away, I'm escaping, and I'm just going to be here for a day. I used to do that often. In between my travel, I would go one town over to a hotel and just stay in the room and be present with me. So you can turn everything off. Okay. One of my favorite books to read, and I always encourage my clients, is to read The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. And the reason why I encourage that book, and I typically say read it twice, is because you want to focus on the love that you have for yourself, because you have love for everybody else and you show it quite often. But when you're looking at the woman in the mirror, rarely do we give her that same amount of love. And then in the book, he talks about truth, forgiveness, and love. That's a part of your journey of healing. And the truth is when you open the wound and you're being honest about what that wound is. The forgiveness is cleaning out the wound, taking out that not so yummy stuff that you've experienced in your life. And the love is the strong medicine. That strong medicine that we have to give to ourselves just as easily as we give to everybody else. And I find that those practices are essential as you go through your own personal transformation and your own growth. You've done your job. I always say you've done your job. You've given so much to everybody else, and you are worthy and deserving of giving it to yourself.
So many good things to do. So is Grandma Jenny there? Is she right there with you right now?
Grandma Jenny hangs out on the left, and she's just sitting over there. She's like in a chair, a metaphorical chair, just sitting there with a little bit of a smile on her face. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Let's give her a big energetic hug.
Yeah. Let's love her.
I try to keep her calm. Because typically when she speaks, it's more of not necessarily aggressive, but there's a point that needs to be made. Okay. And sometimes she feels like that point, I need you to get this point across. And I'm like, okay. So it's interesting. So this morning, as I was sharing, the point was serving. The message that needed to be given was serving, but making sure that there was an even exchange of when you're serving. So as much as you're pouring into other people, make sure that you're receiving it back so you can continue the work that you're doing. So
important.
That is like our toughest one sometimes, is being able to give to ourselves as well.
Yes.
We just want to give to everybody else, and then we're like, I'm so tired. We
forget.
Yeah. We forget.
And we forget why, and that's why we're tired. It's like no one is filling up our tank. And, you know, at some point you have to be willing to ask. And when you're pouring, sometimes you have to be willing to pull back a little bit. And, you know, this is all for your emotional well-being, so you can continue doing the work that you're doing. There are always times when we're going to have to tap out. I was like, you know how in the boxing they tap out? There's always going to be times when you have to be willing to tap out. That's the best way to say it. Be willing to tap out, because sometimes we're not willing to do it. We'll tell ourselves, well, what if they need me?
Yep.
Well, what if you're not here?
I want to remind everyone, this is for all of us, not just when we're doing our energy work in the businesses that we do, but right there in your home where you're giving and giving, where you're wearing all these hats, trying to make all the ends meet. You've got to allow yourself to receive, to keep yourself going so that you can fulfill all these things that you feel called to do. It's beautiful when we do this. It's the balance. It's the exchange.
Yes. Yeah. What was that meme I saw this week? The hardest things to say are, I forgive you, and I'm sorry, I need help, and Worcestershire sauce. But those were, that is the hardest thing to say. So yeah, I need help is often a very hard thing. When people say, well, they don't know, but you got to ask, and that's the hardest thing. You got to ask. Got to ask your guides for help. You got to ask people around you for help, because if you always give, you don't give anybody that blessing of giving too, right?
To you,
And you have to be receptive of receiving.
Yeah, you got to be allowing.
Because sometimes it shows up And then you're like, but no, that's not it. Or no, that's not how I expected to show up. But you have to be, being receptive is key too. There are givers and takers. And on each end, someone's good at being a giver, someone's good at being a taker. And when someone is being on the receiving end of being a giver, when the giver is trying to receive, it's hard for those people to be receptive of it. Definitely.
Yeah.
This is true.
I'm a bad giver. It's hard for me to be receptive, but I'm a practicing, receiver. I'm a practicing receiver. I no longer ask why, and that's why I say when somebody wants to give to you, you just say thank you. Don't
That's
ask
right.
why. Say
Don't
thank
say
you.
no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
No,
Just
it's
say
okay.
thank
You
you.
don't have to.
Yeah.
No,
No, no.
It's
because
part
you're
of their
blocking your
lesson.
blessings. Yes,
It's
you're
a
blocking
part
your
of them
blessings.
learning to give and take too. So it's a beauty to allow them. And when there's little children who want to give to us and give us some grape that fell on the floor or something, and they want to share it with us, when we say no, it kind of breaks their hearts. You see, so it's kind of natural to give and accept.
Yes.
We've got to feel worthy enough to accept it now. Boom.
Yeah. I know I'm working on releasing that programming of being a burden when you ask for help or accept, it does. I go right into burden mode. I'm like, no, don't. You need to give to yourself. And I totally, from childhood have had that belief that if we ask or, I tell my kids that too. Don't ask for things. You won't get it if you ask. Well, that's not really right, is it? It's okay to ask with, the understanding that you may not always get it right away, but it's okay to ask.
Yeah,
And it's always
that's
good to
right.
ask for help.
It is. I've heard Jack Canfield say that I'll always be willing to ask whatever question you have, ask, but be gracious about it if you hear the word no, because that's okay. That's their journey. You move on to the next. So just be open and willing to this. What are we hiding from? It's time to live and be a part of all this. I'm so excited.
Thanks so
Well,
much,
thank
Tina.
you. Tina, you're just so amazing and inspiring, and I'm so happy that you were on our show today.
Well, thank you all for having
Very
me
honored
here.
to
It's
have you
been a
here today.
pleasure. Been a pleasure.
I have to say, your energy is like absolutely peaceful. So the stillness you were doing before, I don't know what's going on, but I am so relaxed, calm, centered, and you just brought through a lot of just very peaceful energy.
Yeah.
It's funny because the only other female in my house right now is a cat who I never let in my room during lives, or really ever. And she has not left me alone. She's been watching the live on my laptop, and she's just been purring and happy. So she's soaking it up too. It's great.
Wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Nice.
Oh, so
I love it.
Thank you again.
all right. Is it announcement time?
Yeah, it's
No, we got to ask her the rock and roll question.
You're right. See, I forget because I'm so relaxed. All right. So, if you had to pick a theme song to be, or a song to be the theme song of your life, what would it be?
Well, more recently, well, not more recently, but whenever the song was released, it just resonated with me. Beyonce, I Was Here. Every time I hear that song and she gets to a certain point, what does she say? I want them to know that my life, I forgot the words of it, but the energy that she exudes in that song, because we look at her as a famous person, but we don't know all the other things behind the scenes that she does to help other people. And when she says, I will leave my mark so everyone will know that I was here, I was like, ugh, that speaks to the essence of everything that I want to do, of the way that the connections that I've made with women around the globe, and just give them that permission that they've been seeking to live the life that they truly desire without apprehension, without fear. That's my song. I Was Here.
I love that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And what a blessing to know that you are a catalyst for life-changing growth for women.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You're leaving your mark. You are. So thank you so much for hanging out with us and leaving your mark on our audience and on us, because this has been really an awesome experience.
Great. Yeah. I appreciate it. I appreciate being allowed to share with other phenomenal people around the globe who are working on embracing their gift. This is your season. This is your time. The universe has plans for you. So hiding in the corners is not the place.
Woohoo!
It's about to get
Yes.
big, right?
Yeah.
Really big.
Oh yeah, truth nugget. Boom.
Yes. All right. So we have a winner of last week's Share It Out who won a mini reading with Teresa Warren. Whichever reading you like, she has a few to offer you. And the winner is Krista Higginbotham of Synchronista. We love her so much. We're so glad she
Krista.
won. If you share out this week, whoever shares out the most will win a Healing Through the Records session with Rhonda Elliott, which is amazing. You get Reiki, you get Akashic Records reading. It is powerful, and so you really want to share this out as much as you can in all the groups, with your friends and everybody. Let them experience this peacefulness, this stillness, this connection. You know, this is what we're here for.
Yeah.
This is absolutely a gift for everyone who gets to experience this. So share it out. After this on the Akashic Academy is, hold on, I have it written down somewhere because it's a new one. There it is. Okay, so we have a Cosmic Ascension Report with Janelle Cameron at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, which is going to talk about the energies that have been going on, what's happening, what's coming this week, so, you know, any ascension symptoms that might be experienced, all of that. It really helps you to have a better understanding so you don't feel like you're going crazy. We know that these ascension symptoms are kicking our asses right now with all this stuff that we've been transmuting and clearing out, and it's a lot of work. But hang out in a place where you know you're not alone, you know, where others are going through the same thing, and you can have that peace of mind of knowing that this is just part of the process, you know, grounding it in, knowing that you can move through it. That's a really powerful thing to be able to have. And then after that, which tomorrow, the next show would be Beauty at the Heart with Sarah Lillian. That's at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. And then there's Nourishing Your Multidimensional Body with Kathy Homeyer at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And Monday is finished off with Let's Tap with Sarah Gunderson at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, which is also a great way to start your week. Tapping out anything that you don't want to experience anymore, reprogramming, setting the week with good intentions. Beautiful. So there's also the Akashic Magazine, which is free. It's a free download full of amazing articles to give you support and wisdom and enlightenment. And it's
vibes high.
Yes, it is. It's the news that we want. No more of that heavy, dense news. We want the positive, light-filled news showing how we're making positive changes in this world. You know, that's where we're moving into. So being able to have that, it's free. It's a free download on www.theakashicacademy.com. There's also, if you really, really like hanging out with all these awesome people, there's the Akashic Academy membership, which is $44.44 a month. And you can message any one of us, Teresa, Rhonda, or I, to get a link to sign up under us. We would love to hang out and chat with you more if you're interested. So message any one of us and we'll give you the link to get in there. And I'm doing a shameless promotion right now because Teresa, Rhonda, and I have joined this amazing group of women. There's 5 of us right now. It's called the Sacred Sisterhood Guidance. And we're having an event tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, where the 5 of us will be coming together to give you messages for $22.22. It's the last time we're going to offer this low price. So it's exciting, powerful. We're all joining together and we all give a message for one question.
Amazing. Yeah.
I'll go through and we will give you a message. So you get tons of information, tons of support, and it's so much wisdom and power and confirmation. And it's for us, it's just such an honor to be able to be a part of it. So that is on our Sacred Sisterhood Guidance page, which Rhonda has put in the link, in the comments.
At the bottom.
At the bottom. There it is. All right, and I think that's it. And to get a hold of the amazing Tina Hines, you have the links in the description.
Yep, at the top.
Yes, please follow her. Check out our website. And we definitely want to see
Be
more
inspired.
of these. Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much.
Go to Bali for me.
Yeah. Me too. Maybe I'll astral travel there.
Yeah.
That'd be nice. And you won't be here for 2 weeks. Because you'll
I
be
won't be here for 2 weeks. I'm leaving on vacation on Wednesday, and I'll be back the 21st. So I'll be missing the next 2 shows. But I love all of you so much, and I will be in the spirit, and I will definitely try to jump on and be in the comments if I can during the lives. So, yeah, I'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Great. Well, thank you all. And blessings. Thank you again, Tina. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everyone.
Have a
See you
blessed
next
week.
week.
Namaste.
Shine your light. The world needs it.